In this episode of Super Seicento, we're going to fix the brakes, which are broken, so they don't break. So we're going to fix them, so they're not broken. So then they do break. Get it? Got it? Good. Hello you lot, Miller Corner here, welcome back to Super Seicento. And yep, as promised, the winter fixes and mods are beginning. And first things first, we're going to sort out the brakes. Now, long-term viewers of the channel will know that I've got Punto GT turbo front brakes on this car for the bigger calipers, the bigger discs, and they're two-piece discs as opposed to single-piece. They're grooved, they're drilled, all that kind of cool stuff to get some more braking power. But in truth, they've never felt particularly solid. They stop the car well, but I've always had a soft pedal, and with the car set to gain a lot more power soon, I need brakes that I can feel confident in. You may have noticed the calipers themselves aren't looking their best and the paint hasn't lasted too well, so I took the calipers off the car the day I put the Super Seicento into storage, and I'll leave it up to Joe from the past to freshen them up a bit. Thanks, Joe from the future. Now this is Joe from the past showing you what these calipers look like after just a couple of years on the car. In fact, two separate cars technically. But you can see here the paint is all blistery and flaked off, and loads of brake dust generated by those EBC pads I used to use means that the paint is not in a good way. But on the plus side, they did come apart really easily because we remembered to copper grease the bolts when we put the calipers and the carriers on the car. So remember your copper grease, folks. It's 10 seconds of work for so much time saving later on. So everything's prepped, we've got the lighting ready, and it's time for another episode of Joe Paints Random Stuff. Joe Paints Random Stuff. Do-do-do. On this episode of Joe Paints Random Stuff, we've got a first. Brake calipers and carriers from the Super Seicento, which of course, if you don't remember, are from a Punto GT Turbo. A few of you commented that I don't wear a mask while I'm doing this, so I nicked this one off an old lady in Tesco. So we've got the primer first of all, and we're going to be priming these babies before respraying them in magnificent Brum Yellow. Cue the montage. With the calipers now resplendent in Brum Yellow, it's time to improve the pedal feel. The fact a few pumps of the brake pedal got it firm before it almost immediately went soft again suggests a failing master cylinder, so I bought a brand new Delphi one to help improve things. Standard rubber brake lines can bulge under hard braking, which causes a soft pedal. These stainless steel braided brake lines are a straight swap and remain rigid, regardless of pressure, hopefully translating to a firmer pedal. First, the brake reservoir is drained of fluid with this massive syringe. You can drain the fluid by pumping the pedal, but this is a much neater solution. Be careful not to spill any brake fluid on your paintwork, and clean any that you do spill off immediately, because this stuff chews through paint. Next, the intake is removed for better access, and then the reservoir can be gently wiggled off the master cylinder, being careful not to spill any remaining fluid. Then the brake pipes can be disconnected from the master cylinder. All four are cracked and undone before being carefully levered out of the way. All that's left are the two bolts holding the master cylinder onto the brake booster, undone by threading a massive extension through the engine bay. The old master then lifts out, which for some reason wasn't caught on camera. After comparing old and new to make sure the replacement's correct, we can grease up the seals on the new master cylinder, slot it onto the servo, and then bolt it in place. With those nuts tightened up, the brake pipes are screwed back on, the reservoir slotted in place, the fluid level float cleaned, and the cap screwed back on. Good. Lovely. Well, master cylinder done. We'll refill the reservoir with brake fluid once we're done, but first, the braided lines. Dad unbolts and removes the passenger side arch liner before unbolting and removing the original rubber brake line, while I do the same on the other side. The passenger side goes swimmingly, with everything coming undone nicely before the braided hose screws in and everything goes back together nicely. Trouble is, I decided to film the driver's side.
Bloody rounding off, isn't it? This is what I was afraid of.
The brake line union is hopelessly seized, so we've got no choice but to cut the end of the pipe off, discard the rubber hose, and use a brake pipe flaring tool to flare the end of the pipe out to hold a new union on, allowing a small new section of pipe to screw in place. Time is against us here, so I mostly play cameraman, but with the new section screwed on and the braided line attached to it, I then take over to continue the job. The caliper sliders are degreased to rid them of a disgusting amount of brake dust and dried grease before fresh grease is applied and then worked in. The carrier gets bolted to the hub, the new braided brake line screwed into the caliper, and with the pads copper greased to prevent them squeaking, they're then inserted and the caliper can be bolted to the carrier.
Right.
Front braideds are done. So here's where we're at. The front braideds are all done after we fixed that bit of brake pipe that is now looking lovely. We were then going to be doing the rears, which just go here behind the fuel tank. There's the rear axle, there's the trailing arm, and they go to there. Only a couple of inches, jobs are good, right? Not really, for various reasons. For a start, one of the nuts we've got to undo for the rear brake pipe is up here. I'm going to do my best to kind of demonstrate. This is a brake pipe spanner. And to even get it remotely close to being hooked on, I mean, that is technically on, but you can probably notice it's not actually even. And the reason why it's not even is because of the fuel tank. And I can't get it any further down than that because it will just hit the join seam for the fuel tank there. So that's going to be at a funny angle, and particularly given our history with rounding these off and breaking them today, that's probably going to break if we don't get it absolutely dead even and level, and even then it still might. We've sprayed loads of penetrating fluid down it, you can see, but that still might go wrong. And then there's the fuel tank itself. Now, anyone who knows Seicentos and Cinquecentos will know that these do have a bit of a history for having rusty fuel tanks. Now, if you look at this bit here, for example, that feels and sounds very much solid, but this bit here, which is where we've just been working today, can you hear that? Crispy, crispy, crunchy, crunchy, and very much crispy, crispy, crunchy, crunchy. This doesn't worry me immensely, if I'm honest, for two reasons. One, it's got almost no fuel in it, and two, these are replaceable easily and relatively cheaply. About 50 odd quid gets you a new fuel tank. The thing is, if you've got to take the fuel tank out anyway to get that union off for the rear brake pipe, then you may as well drop the tank, throw away this crusty one and get a brand new one in there anyway, and rust-proof the brand new one and then rust-proof under it just here on the main body of the car as well. So that is where we're probably going to leave it for today. We are going to go online straight away and order a new fuel tank along with a few other little bits and pieces, because we are going to drop that tank and replace it when we do the rear brake hoses, but that ain't going to happen same day, particularly because we're filming this on a Saturday. It's Sunday tomorrow. What was going to be 4 braided brake lines and a master cylinder going on is a master cylinder and the front braided brake lines are going on, which is still a day well spent. We've got a new master cylinder on. That went fantastically well. Job's a dream. Access is brilliant for that. And the front braided, apart from that little bit where we had to put a new bit of pipe on, that went really well as well. Calipers are now repainted in broom yellow. They look awesome. They're fitted. The whole front of the car is awesome brakes wise. The rear is going to have to wait. And again, if I was still using this car regularly, that would be more of an irritant. But because it's not, because it's in storage for winter, I don't really care. If this takes a few weeks to do, it takes a few weeks to do. All it means is you get more videos. So join us next time when we're going to drop and replace the tank after rust proofing it and get those rear braideds on, hopefully. Thanks for watching, everybody. Catch you soon and have a good one.